Alright guys, it's time. My review of Assassin's Creed Shadows. After beating the entire game and playing it for quite some time, I had a lot of people ask what are my thoughts on it, and so after finishing it, let's go ahead and go over everything. And I'm going to try to be as objective as possible, but I want to say there's a lot of misinformation out there with this game for sure. Whether that you like the game or dislike the game, I want to try to stay objective here with the review. So, for starters, I'm going to go over the graphics. The graphics of this game are absolutely amazing because of draw distance. I know if some people were saying that the game's graphics aren't super insane, but if you look at the distance and the reflections this game offers, it is definitely in the current gen, without a doubt. And that is because there are so many small things in terms of detail in this game that absolutely blew my mind, especially with some of these things that they would pay attention to in terms of like how they would sheath weapons, having always the blade face away from like where the downforce would be. There's a lot of good attention to detail and like just small little things in the game. I would say graphic wise, this game did an excellent job. However, the game is so large though that it makes the game actually good for its visuals because again, you could see so far away. It's not like you're going to use a sniper, but they still had the draw distance extremely high. By the way, I played on PC on a 3090 just for reference here. But yeah, I would say the graphics without a doubt, they are current gen. Now, who is this game essentially for? I would say people that are maybe interested in like samurai sort of ninja stuff. I would say teens kind of like that kind of stuff, you know, like pirates, ninjas, zombies. This is kind of just something that's been really popular for a really long time amongst teens. I would say even adult and average and casual gamers are probably going to enjoy this game quite a bit. Now, I almost want to say that there are hardcore gamers that can really enjoy this game as well, like as far as demographic, because there is a huge amount of content that you can sink yourself into if you want to be someone that gets 100% of all the achievements, if you want to be someone that gets all of the items, weapons, getting all the different things that you can for some of the builds that you can make in this game, which is actually quite cool. But as far as it goes, in terms of the gameplay feel, how did the combat feel? Well, it's oriented around being a stealth game, but there is one huge flaw that I want to say that definitely exists in the game, where specifically you cannot one-shot certain enemies, and that is because you might be a few levels behind. They kind of force this level system in the game. I'll kind of skim through some gameplay. I'll try not to show off any spoilers here, but this is just part of the campaign. But as far as like forging your weapons, there's a lot of depth with this as well. I'm just going to go ahead and again skim through some gameplay here so you guys can see a variety. But as far as the gameplay feel goes, it works as a stealth game, but there are a lot of areas where it feels very clunky. The one thing I really wish this game had is when you're using Nawe, which is the character that I'm playing as right now. By the way, you could select both characters. You can play as kind of like this shinobi ninja character, and you can also play as Yasuke, which is like the samurai kind of tank sort of character. But as far as the gameplay feel goes, as far as the stealth elements, it does work to an extent, but specifically that level thing was really kind of a turnoff because if I go behind someone and just because he's like a higher like number, it just kind of feels awkward for a game. It almost reminds me more of like a number check versus like a skill check. You can go into the options and make it so you can one-shot majority of things, but as far as it goes, I would say that the gameplay feel, I would say it's on the area of just okay passable. And the reason why is this is my first Assassin's Creed game that I actually like played all the way through. I've played some of the previous ones for just like an hour here or there, but the thing is that it feels too similar to what already existed previously, and I would say it just feels okay. They didn't really do some crazy innovation with the way that the gameplay actually feels, especially with the combat. It feels, I would personally say, outdated. There are some cool things that you can do for builds and some cool like executions, but you know, watching the same execution time and time after you've seen it so many times, it's kind of just whatever, right? So I would say the gameplay feel doesn't feel insanely good in terms of it being like, again, a next-gen game. When I look at games that have really good action combat, I go to games like Devil May Cry and always use those as specific examples. If you want like high action hack and slash, you can play as a different character, which is the samurai character, Yasuke, and he's more like hack and slash, where if you're playing Nawe, which is the character I'm playing as right now, again, you mainly oriented around assassinating, but it felt passable, but it wasn't something that, again, was going to be something that would blow your mind away. And there's not really too many like puzzles. There's kind of like, you go here to go over here, and you kind of get some hints on where to go. There's like kind of platforming, but as far as like the main core of the gameplay, you're kind of scanning around, looking for enemies, and looking for specifically like these little samurai icons that are above certain people's heads, and then you can kind of capture the area. But again, the game is just okay in terms of like the feel of the game. It doesn't feel incredibly new or refreshing, especially if you've already played some of the Assassin's Creed game, because after I finished this one, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I kind of want to see what other Assassin's Creed games have to offer, and it basically felt similar to what was done long time ago. As far as the audio, I'm not gonna lie, there were some areas where like they had like kind of like this like big bass like music, and it just didn't necessarily fit for the game. But I think that the game had okay / good music. And again, there's just certain areas where the music didn't fit like this Japanese samurai sort of a theme. But it did work for the game. It wasn't something that, again, I would go download the OST and listen to off my time, but I think that it was still good and it did work for the game. As far as the gameplay depth and customization, there's actually surprisingly a really good amount of options for builds. And the reason why is I come from a lot of action RPGs. I like crazy depth with builds. But the thing with the builds in the game is that a lot of stuff doesn't get enabled till you either get these legendaries or you get these things that you can engrave. It's kind of like imprinting from Diablo. You can add just some sort of like damage, but there are a lot of cool charms and other things that you get towards the end of the game, which give you like more damage. For example, there's like one legendary where it gives you like more damage as long as you don't allocate your skill points. You can get more damage for putting in no skill points. And I'm like, that's cool. I like that idea. But it wasn't on the same level as like Dragon Age or like Path of Exile when it comes to like build diversity, but there is still a good amount of options, and I was genuinely quite surprised by it. The unfortunate part with like getting some of these legendaries though is that you have to go to these like fortresses, and then you have to assassinate like very specific like 2 to 5 of these samurai targets, and then you open up a chest and you get a legendary. The problem is that you don't know what the legendary is, and after you do this again and again, it gets quite repetitive. But as far as it goes, that was kind of exciting, because like at the very beginning, I was doing all these. I'm like, oh, there's a legendary here. There's a legendary, item. There's a legendary sword, a legendary chest armor, a legendary helmet. Really cool stuff. But again, it didn't show me what it did. I think what they should have done for this in terms of making it so it didn't feel as repetitive, people could see what the effect of that legendary is, and they could decide, do I want to do this? Because I honestly got kind of burnt out at like 20-ish hours. And by the way, it took me like 35-ish hours to complete the game. But about like 20 hours in, I was kind of tired of going to the same, like, go to the fortress, kill 3 samurai, open up the loot box that has the legendary at the very end. Because I just wanted to get it. And sometimes it could feel a little bit frustrating when you would get surrounded. And sometimes the enemies, they're sometimes too dumb and sometimes too smart. But for the most part, as far as that goes, if you play the samurai character, you can just basically go in and destroy everything. With the ninja character, if you want to kind of regen your health, it doesn't like regen over time. You have to basically exit the entire area, come back, maybe refill your HP, then go back in if you run out of your potions. Because if they spot you and they have like this wanted thing, then the area is kind of, until the new season comes out, you're always considered like wanted, unless you swap characters too, which you can swap to at some point. I want to say it's about 10 hours in that you can just play the character that you want to. For the most part, there are certain quest lines as far as the story goes that you have to play a specific character, which is actually really cool. But as far as the difficulty goes, I would say that you can definitely play this game without a guide. If you're wondering, is the game too hard, too easy? I would say it's pretty average. Like most average gamers will be eventually able to complete it. You don't really have to look up some guides, but if you want to look up guides to get a very specific item, you may need to do that, and you'll probably die a couple times when you play the game, but it's not really that difficult at all. As far as the grind, I would say there was a little bit of backtracking and side quest level. There got to a point where like this boss was like several levels higher than me, and I didn't want to go back and do a bunch of side quests. So basically I had to do no hit runs, which for me, it's kind of a cool challenge, but I could see some people just wanting to complete the story, not doing some side quests. However, the side quests actually do have a lot of lore, and there's actually a lot of side quests that I genuinely felt like they should have just been part of the main game. But I feel like in terms of game design, if you're going to make it so there are side quests that are optional, you should actually make it genuinely optional. I always go back to games like Deus Ex where there's so many optional quest lines, whereas this game, because your level doesn't equal the certain area, you either get items that you cannot equip, which I think is really dumb, and then there's also times where like the enemies will literally one-shot you because you're like a couple levels behind, and I felt like that was kind of frustrating. So then you'd have to go backtrack, do some side quests, which again, just make it so you have to do these. If the player is going to get one-shotted, they're just not going to have fun. Or again, if you run into the situations where the enemies just take way too long to kill, like if they spot you, it just takes way too long. So as far as the grinding goes, there is a little bit of a grind to it, but as far as it goes, every area kind of tells you what level they should be at, but sometimes it's not always accurate because you have to pass through an area that things will absolutely one-shot you, and it feels bad. But as far as the story goes, I think it was actually pretty good. There's actually kind of two stories in this game, which is actually really interesting. As far as it goes, I know there's some controversy with one of the characters, Yasuke, which is the samurai character, and if you just pay attention to the story, I promise it will make sense. It's actually pretty well done. I actually liked both of the characters' story. However, I think Yasuke is a much better character, that is the samurai, in terms of his story. Naoe, which is the ninja shinobi character, she's very inconsistent with her decision making. I guess that's just part of her character, but if you're looking for like a generic like hero character, she is not like a generic hero character at all, which is good because then it makes Yasuke kind of have this like, he has more honor and stuff because, well, he's a samurai versus like a ninja shinobi that's assassinating people. But as far as it goes, yeah, I think the story was good. There's a couple twists which I think are really good, and there is some options. So if you like games like kind of like Deus Ex or Dragon Age where you get to make options, I really wish for the story though that you just had like these party members that would kind of interact with you like throughout the whole gameplay. If you guys have ever played Mass Effect or Dragon Age, I like that you have like a party of characters. In this game, how it works is you get to acquire these different like companions, but they're more like a fighting game assist. You tag them in, they have a really long cooldown, but you can tag them in and they kind of, knock down or poison AoE or they'll snipe or something. But there's a lot of cool characters that you can unlock in the game, and as far as I'm aware of, some of these are optional. You can like not unlock them. So I think that's kind of cool. Maybe you would encourage a second playthrough because I'm not sure if you can like revive people that you've already killed, but you can actually manually save, which is actually a pretty good thing for story wise, because then you can like go back, because I like doing this with games. I'm like, well, what happens if I do this? So I'll make a quick save, and then every once in a while I load back and then try to test out what else would happen. But I think the story was pretty good for the game. Now, as far as game time goes, I'm not even kidding. If you're like someone like that needs like a game to be really long for you guys to make the purchase. I by the way did not pay full price for this game. What I actually did was I got the Ubisoft Premium Plus, and so for 18 bucks this was a fantastic, like, no, you get it for, it's 18 bucks a month, but you just pay for 1 month and then cancel it if you are done with the game. But I thought the game had insane game time. Like when I was younger, I only got like 1 or 2 video games a year, so like I wanted my games to last long, so I'd always get like these JRPGs turn-based. It would be like 50 hours plus, right? But as far as it goes, the story-wise, I would say it's still pretty long. I would say like, and I kind of skipped some of like the dialogue that I felt like was unnecessary. So at like 35 hours-ish, that was pretty much, I would say, where most people will kind of finish it. I did a couple side quests, but if you're just pretty much gunning straight for it, if you skip every cutscene, maybe it's still like 20-30 hours long. But yeah, I did do some side quests, but on average, it might be like a 40-ish hour game for most people if you do a couple side quests here and there. But I think that there's insane replayability. However, there is also like a battle pass, and I guess they're going to be like, there's kind of seasons in the game, not like a season like, like in Overwatch or something, but like there are seasons in the game that kind of refresh certain things in the game, so you can like go back and do different things because the zones will change too. I actually think that this game has like insane replayability. Again, it will be pretty repetitive, but I play action RPGs, which is like one of the most repetitive genres in the game. But as far as it goes, since there are 2 characters and since there's a lot of stuff to unlock, there is no doubt fantastic replayability with this game. Now, as far as the price goes, I would say it's absolutely worth it if you buy Ubisoft Premium Plus, whatever. For 18 bucks, there was no doubt in my mind that this was 100% worth it. But even if you were to pay a full price for the game, depending on your region, 50 to 70 bucks, I would say, dude, as far as like how much content is in the game, it feels worth it, especially if you've never played an Assassin's Creed game. However, I want to say if you've already played a bunch of the Assassin's Creed games, it's very similar. So if you like it, well, then I would say it's still worth it. There's just so much stuff to explore and so much other things to do in the game. It's mind-blowing how many like things exist in the game, but it's usually go here, grab this item, go here, kill this target. It's pretty straightforward. However, the things that do make it kind of exciting is that you can get a legendary and you can get different like loot options, and then you can engrave the item with just like a numerical stat. But honestly, the thing that's most important is there's actually items like GAs. If you ever play Diablo, there's basically greater affixes that can roll on the item. So like there is some sort of like farming aspect where you're going to play the game again and again. There are like these little things that can pop up that have like resets, almost like if you've ever played I know this is not like a mobile game, but like I'm saying, like in mobile games, you know how they have like dailies, you can get this one thing. There's like these little things that can pop up. But this game is definitely worth it in terms of like how much content is in the game, without a doubt. Like there's no denying that this game has enough content. As far as bugs go, I had a couple bugs in the game where like some NPCs just like didn't function. I couldn't talk to them, and then I'd have to reset the game. But I would say in total maybe like 5 bugs the whole time. It was still playable, but like it wasn't really that big of a deal. Now, what am I scoring it out of a 10? Because I genuinely, in the first like 2 hours of the game, I was like, dude, this is a solid like 8, 9. Like I really loved it. And then I started doing a lot of the quests where like it was the same exact thing, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have this open world. There's a legendary here. I want to farm the legendaries, right? And then I was like, dude, this is like way too repetitive. It got to the point where I'm like, why am I doing this? Because like I would get like a legendary, and like either I couldn't equip it because it wasn't an area that might have been too high, because I just want to get the legendaries. I didn't really care too much about like, oh, doing the side quest, because I want to get the stuff that gives me a legendary so I can maybe make a build off of it. But after I stopped doing the kill 3 samurai, open up the chest, I felt like, okay, this game's actually like pretty solid. It's getting a little bit better. Then there started being some twists in the game, which I actually started really liking. And then I also noticed some people were complaining about like the game being pay to win. And then I looked at the battle pass, and you have one of the most insane things inside of the battle pass, which is like when you get to the top of the area, which is kind of like think of it kind of like a waypoint in Diablo, where basically you can teleport back to the area. When you get that like waypoint, which is usually at the top of a tower, what you're able to do, and let me like just fast forward to, maybe I play, do I play the samurai over here? I want to show you guys the samurai gameplay as well. Let me actually fast forward to that. All right, so here's Yasuke over here, and he actually plays a lot different. But when I got to like kind of progress more farther in the story and I got to play him, I was like, oh, this is so cool, because now he like plays completely different. It's literally like a tank character, where instead of sneaking around doing assassinations, which technically he offers that, but for the most part, let me go ahead and skip this so there's no like spoilers here. I just want to show you guys like kind of like the combat with this guy over here, because he plays a lot different. Like you want to go in 1v5, 1v6, whatever you want to do, and he does have different weapons too, and it's really cool. Now, unfortunately, you can't really share the weapons. Some of the stuff you may be able to share, like some of the trinkets, but for the most part, they actually have a different loot pool. They actually have a separate skill tree. The skill tree was actually quite cool, that there was again, more things that could affect the build. A lot of stuff was kind of just numerical, like damage stuff or crit chance, crit damage, but there were actual skills that you would get. But there was a charm that I had that would give me more damage if I had less skills equipped. It's just kind of like these things that are more interesting that I genuinely do like in terms of action RPGs, because it's definitely an RPG. But you can actually use like a flint rifle as well with him. He also has like a bow, whereas the other character, she has like a kunai ninja star, so you get to kind of fulfill the fantasy in the game. There are also these things to get like these like mastery, like knowledge points to progress in the next tier of the skill tree, which honestly I really didn't like. But it would require you to go to like an area, and then you'd have to do either some mini game. The samurai's ones weren't that bad. It was like basically like archery target and stuff, and that one was like fine, that's cool. But then there were the other ones where like you're basically kind of playing DDR, but then like they would remove all of like the like icons. I really hated that, but it was part of the progression. You almost had to do it, or it was like find 3 scrolls in like this giant town, and then you have to sit there scanning every area, and it felt like a lot of tedious like work, and I really didn't like that. But I still think that overall, like even with like the microtransactions, which I think microtransactions is a single player game, like I always got to like try to reduce the score because of that. And the reason why is I just don't think microtransactions should exist in a single player game. If they want to release DLC, that's fine. I don't mind paying like $20 for like a really solid DLC. But as far as the game goes, I would say like you could easily objectively say that this game is an 8. Like it is so dang filled with the amount of content, and it doesn't feel like it was like a cash grab at all. Now, as far as like the battle pass, like I said, you could unlock the thing once you get to like the highest part of the like the level. You'd be able to reveal everything, and it would tell you where everything was. Now, do you need that? No. Did I need to pay for anything in terms of like buying any of the armors that actually give you stats? These aren't just like numerical things on the battle pass or whatever they have in the store. I would say most people can complete it without worrying about it. However, I just don't like that it exists in the game. But again, I know that modern games, they just all gotta have it. Like heck, even one of my favorite games, Devil May Cry, heck, the new Deus Ex had Praxis kits that you could just pay real money for in the game. But you didn't need it. And I want to go ahead and stress that, yes, some people will say the game is pay to win. And hey, I don't like it either, but the way that the game is designed, you do not need it at all. In fact, I almost take that as kind of a challenge in video games when they're like, oh, you can buy stuff. I want to beat it without it. So I want to say the game is fun. If you like if you've played the Assassin's Creed games before and you enjoyed them, you'll probably like this one, but you may be burnt out of like the genre in general, because like I said, I was really excited to go ahead and check out the other Assassin's Creed games, as this was the first one that I fully completed and actually had myself, because the other ones I just kind of played at a friend's house long time ago. But I actually had a lot of fun with this one, and if you're a fan of like Ghost of Tsushima, you could definitely have some fun with this game as well. If you like samurais, ninjas, and like Japanese stuff, like if you're a weeb, I think you'll like this game, because I liked it a lot overall. There are some moments though that it just felt like the game kind of like it drew on too much with just like the talking, and they could have broken up the combat a little bit better, but I think that you can easily say that this game is a solid 8 out of 10. So if you're wondering, do I recommend the game? Absolutely. With Ubisoft Plus, go pick it up for $18 and you'll have access to it, and if you can beat it within the month time, cool. If you want to purchase the game, I don't think that it's a bad idea either, because there is so much content that even after you finish the game, let me go and actually open up the map so you guys can see how big the game is with like all the objectives too. Oh, real quick. Also, I'm going to show you guys the skill tree. So basically, this is one of the skill tree. This is tools. There's 6 skill trees for each class. There's basically 12 skill trees, and some of them are like, you can use the katana, or you can use, this one is specifically for the tools, but there's also like the tanto. So there's like a lot of different things that you can do, but like I said, I want to show you the map too. All right. So it's not really going to have spoilers, but like this is kind of like what the map looks like, and I say kind of the map because this is technically like the objectives that are inside of the world. So you can see you have the Shin Bakufu, which is basically like these like enemies. These are like kind of like the star bosses that you need to kill. Now I'll be honest, as far as boss fights go, this game didn't impress me at all. A lot of the bosses were kind of mid, I ain't gonna lie. But the amount of content that you have where it's like you have to execute these people, and like if it's gold, technically you can like save the character or like not eliminate them, and there's so much content. Like each one of these like little like red things is where we actually killed them. However, each one of those quest lines can open up the doors to like 4 mini quests inside, and then you actually go fight the boss. It's not just go here, fight the boss. It's go here, find info about this person. There's also another option where you can make it so you don't have to like send these scouts out, which if you're playing the game, I highly recommend disable it, because it makes it so much more tedious, because you have to send out the scouts to get the info to find out where to go, which is kind of annoying. But basically, yeah, you can see that this is like a quest line. You can see that there's a level tag to it, and then you go ahead and mark it, and then you go into the open world. You may open up the map again. Let me go and show you guys that. So here's what the map looks like, and you can see like I'll go to it. So every single one of those like little eagles that you're seeing that are yellow, I have like the waypoint, so I can just warp anywhere for the quests, and it's definitely valuable to get those. So if you're playing the game, definitely grab those, because sometimes you have to like go back to an area from like a different quest, and then you'll see where it's marked. If you don't have the setting where like it basically tells you where to go for the quest, you'll have to send scouts, and it's kind of vague. It'll say it is north of Kamakura Valley, but west of Eagle's Nest, and you'll have to kind of guess where these areas are. I really didn't like that. It is kind of cool that you have to ask these people kind of directions on where to go. Kind of adds a little bit more to the game, but honestly, save yourself the time and just do it. And then you can see right now, I'm looking for like the closest area to this area, and then I'm going to go ahead and have to mount up. A lot of the time that you're spending in the game, I'm going to be real with you guys, you are walking from point A to point B, but it's to show you guys how big the scale of the game is, and I think that that is definitely done on purpose to show you the big world. And honestly, while the world is pretty cool, there's too many mountains with the game, and a lot of times with these mountains, it makes the traversing the area a lot more tedious, because you can't just go in a straight line. Like you'd see like where you want to go, and you're like, okay, I want to go straight, right? It doesn't work that way. You have to like path around it, and sometimes the pathing is just like crazy long. But anyways, I kind of want to go and wrap it up now. As far as the game goes, it is absolutely solid. I do not see any controversy with this game in terms of it like being a solid game to play. And if you like, you can also change the violence settings if you do want to change it, which I think is interesting, because in some regions like they kind of block games depending on how much gore is there. But like they didn't really hold back in terms of like as far as anything goes in the game. As far as the romancing in the game, it does have an option for it, but it's like so incredibly mild. I was hoping to get some spicier content, but nonetheless. If you don't want to engage in that, that's fine. It's not really that big of a deal as far as the game goes. There are only a couple options as far as I'm aware of, like which characters that you can romance in the game. But you can see like we're using the bow on Yasuke over here. But yeah, like I said, he plays different. He just goes in and just starts whacking everything. So if you want a hack and slash game, you still have to play the stealth character up until a certain point. But once you get to about 10 hours, then you can pretty much play majority of the game with whatever character that you want. But remember, each character uses different weapons, and if you pick up items, sometimes it will not work for your character. And if you want like a good build, there's one that if you do any like affliction, like the enemies you can see, they're kind of like stunned, and he throws up. It's like some sort of like poison that makes them sick, and they get like stunned. They just degen out. It's fantastic. But the weapons actually feel pretty different. Like you can get this big like giant like bat looking thing. I think it's called the Shugoki. If you've ever played For Honor, they get this like big thing, and it's pretty satisfying because when you hit them or if you kick them, they kind of go back a lot. But yeah, the game's overall really great, and since you guys kept on asking, is the game worth it? 100%. In my personal opinion, is an 8 out of 10, like with confidence. There's no doubt that this is a pretty solid game overall. And if you're on the fence with the game, pick up the Ubisoft Plus, $18, you'll be good. Anyways, that's gonna wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here and you want to see more video game reviews in the future, we'll definitely be covering a lot of other games very soon. But take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. And if you've played the game, genuinely curious, what would you guys give it out of 10? I thought it was a cool game though. Anyways, peace out guys, have a good one.